Okay, one more try on the Reply to Veritas 48's challenge on Facts of Normativity. Yeah, you know what? When it's 1 in the morning and you can't sleep, and your brain's all muddled from lack of sleep, the best thing to do is, argue the nature of reality. That's a good thing to attempt. Oh, damn. Anyway, hi, how's it going? I am going to try my best to restate your argument as I understood it. All states of mind or all beliefs can be graded on a sort of scale, with one state of mind or belief being better than another. One ought to choose the higher of beliefs or states of mind on this scale, that is, the rational ought. Violating a rational ought is irrational. There are moral oughts as well. Violating a moral ought is immoral. And at this point, you seem to be implying that there is some ideal version of these oughts, and that ideal version is called, you're choosing to call God. Because as you've already stated, you choose them on a scale, right? But we get our oughts from God, so God must be at the top of the scale, telling us how high up the ladder we should go. I'm not sure if that implication is correct or not, but it's not explicitly stated, so I don't know. But then you go on to say that there are oughts and ises, and oughts you seem to be saying are what should be done or believed, and ises are just a description of the state of things. Ises are the sky is blue at this specific time, at this specific angle. Ises are, gold has this many protons, neutrons, and electrons, so on and so forth. And then you say that you cannot get to an ought from an is, and you say that oughts have intentionality. Your first example is of you're sitting there at your desk and you're looking at your computer and you say, I have a computer in front of me. And someone standing behind you says, no, that's an elephant. And I'm supposing, even though you don't say it, that the ought should be, the ought that should be chosen there is the one that informs, or that is more rational, which is that there's a computer in front of you. But at the same time, you're saying that you can't get to an ought from an is. And I have difficulty with that because I don't understand how an objective observer who knows not what an elephant is and not what a computer is would be able to say objectively which person is correct in their statement. So right off the bat, at least on the rational oughts, your claim that you can't get to an ought from an is invalidated, as far as I can tell. That's the first problem I have. If you wanted to say that you can't get to a moral ought from an is, that's a slightly different statement, and you seem to be equivocating rational oughts and moral oughts. But you don't seem to give an example of a moral ought and why that choosing this moral ought over another is better on your scale of oughtness. So it's very hard to determine exactly what you're trying to say when it comes to ises and oughts, at least when it comes to morality. The other problem that I have is that the argument, regardless of whether you call it the normative facts and so on and so forth, still sounds like every other moral argument I've heard so far. It still comes down to, is God beholden to these oughts? You're saying that he gives the oughts. If he says what ought to be the case, then it is his arbitrary decision, and therefore becomes meaningless. If, on the other hand, he is beholden to these oughts are, he has to go along with these oughts no matter what, then he's an unimportant part of the equation. He is not a necessary component. Either that or he's just a translator. Like, he reads the oughts and then gives the oughts to us in this universe. Which may be an argument for a certain God, but I don't know if it's an argument for the Christian God, at least. Even still, there are other issues here. And I'm trying to find where I wrote my notes down, because so there are other things that you failed to mention, or you didn't bring up, like value, normative value. For instance, most people will say that chocolate is yummy, tasty, good. And poop is not yummy, tasty, good. So you ought to believe that chocolate is delicious. By that standard, you're going with God is chocolate, or God has given us the oughtness of chocolate is delicious. I don't understand why I'm making that point. That seems silly. Why did I make that point again? I don't know. Again, I don't have enough coffee to do this. There's not enough coffee in the world to wake me up right now, so whatever. The fact that there seems to be some sort of abstract, ideal version of something that we as people strive to get to, our oughtness, our the most oughtness there is not an argument for the existence of God, because you can have a theoretical ideal, you can have an ideal perfect thing in your head to try to reach. That doesn't mean that calling it God, this ultimate standard, is a valid explanation. It tells us nothing about whether or not it exists. It's just a word for now. You fail to explain how it is that these standards inform us that there is, these oughtnesses inform us that there is a God, other than saying that there's intentionality. One of the problems that I have with intentionality, and I have to make this quick because the time is running out, is that you can intend for lots of things. You can give intention to lots of things and still not have it work. You give the example of brakes. I can intend, because you have an ideal version of the way they ought to work, which is stopping the car. And if they don't do that, they're not working as they ought, because of intentionality from the designer of the brakes. You're just shifting the intentionality. And that's all that's happening. I can intend for my car to stop when I open the door and put my hand on the ground. But it doesn't mean that it ought to happen that way. Man, that sucked.